is 6:30 PM on Monday, August 11th, 2025. I'm going to call the meeting of the River Plantation Municipal Utility District Board of Directors to order. First item on the agenda is to review the minutes of the meeting of the Board of Directors for July 24th, 2025. Any comments, questions, corrections?
No.
No. Do I have a motion?
No changes, I move we accept the minutes.
Do I have a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, item number 2, receive comments from the public. D. Judge, up to the podium, please.
I don't want to, I can't make it through the crowd.
Up to the
Okay,
podium,
I was
please.
gonna tell you,
so-
from June,
We're not gonna entertain it unless you come up to the podium. Everybody has to come
no,
up to the.
everybody doesn't.
Yes, they do.
No, they don't. I have seen people talk from
Okay,
back here.
next one. Mark Robin.
What were you gonna say?
I was going to
Okay,
tell them
it's
that
your
they're
3
supposed
minutes.
to be cutting around the bushes around 3, and all they have are vines growing all over, and on my property too. And I've asked them since June various times, and nobody even responds.
Start out Mark Rodman, if you need that or anything like that. Dee had a complaint, and I'm in agreement with her, there's no reason to come up to a platform. If you're gonna do that, get one that's a real platform and not just a wibbly wobbly. Okay, you can hear us just as well from back here.
The reason
That's
is
not
so
true.
that
So
you're
you
on
on
the
the
video.
video,
Well, where's the video camera?
right there.
Back,
Okay.
it's in the back of the room.
Can we,
Yeah, he's.
so you can see my back?
No, we see
Well,
your
it was
profile.
turned, but.
Okay, anyway, they're supposed to be trimming around her house there and the water pump and stuff. It's not being done appropriately. It should be taken care of. The tank was put up there. It encroaches in her yard. It's not in her yard, but if your weeds encroach into her yard, y'all should take care of that. The second thing, again, was a meeting. Not everybody reads the minutes every day of the month, just to see what's new. You have numerous avenues to notify people that you have changed the meetings. If you knew about this, we do it every August and September, you say, well, you should announce that last meeting.
We didn't have a
You-
meeting date set, but.
But anyway, that would be something, if you're gonna use that excuse that we always do it, then it should have been posted last time, put out. And you can have stuff, borrow the CIA sign that says we're changing the dates. You can send us all emails, you have our email addresses. You can go to some effort to let sure more people show up. I would have never shown up if it wasn't for Dee, and she didn't notice it until she just happened to look at it. Okay? The other thing is I think there's supposed to be postings or something about if you're handicapped, since you don't have a handicap thing, you have a locked gate here and you got a locked gate there. If somebody just drives up into the parking lot and is handicapped, how are they supposed to know to notify people if they can't climb the stairs? Is that being addressed at all?
We actually addressed it last month because I thought I was gonna have a board member that had to use it. And as long as I let the fire department know, they'll open the gate.
But that's only if you know someone's coming that's handicapped.
Correct.
If they can't
They
walk
can-
up the
they can
stairs to
honk the
tell
horn.
you that they're handicapped,
Well, they can honk the horn and the firemen will go out or we'll go out. If I hear a horn honking, I'm gonna look and see why.
okay, that's fine. Should a sign be posted out there to tell you in case of handicap, call this number or honk your horn numerous times? I mean, does the ADA accept horn honking in their handicapped,
This building's grandfathered before ADA.
okay. In your duties to support your people, do you supersede the ADA and can say, we will post something up here instead of laying back on lame excuses like we predate the ADA so old people or crippled people can just suffer?
Okay, your 3
I'm-
minutes are up.
Thank you very much.
Okay. All right. Item number 5, we're gonna take some things out of order so that Lauren can not spend his entire evening here. Number 5 is review truth in taxation calculations for 2025 tax rate.
All right, good evening to you all. Here is my report. So on the cover page, you can see last year the district levied a debt service tax rate of 25 cents and a maintenance and operations tax rate of 41 cents for a total of 66. I know we've been talking about this for a while with the issuance of that series of bonds. No surprise here, we were gonna need more pennies in debt service. And so, Julie, that might be last year's.
That's not the right one.
Here you go, Tom.
Somehow.
And so, what I've shown here, or what's included in this analysis, is 37 cents for debt service, which of course necessitates a decrease in the maintenance and operations tax rate to 28.8, the aggregate being 65.8, which is a decrease from the 66 cents. Turning the page, this is your historical page. On the left are your historical taxable assessed values, and on the right are your historical tax rates. At the top is the January 1, 2025 certified taxable assessed value of $227,567,927. You'll recall that we take a percentage of the uncertified value, so the value that we are using in this analysis is $242,411,000. This represents an increase of $5,590,000. This is again basically calendar year 24, from January 1, 2024 to January 1, 2025. This is a 2.4% increase, and this is in line with what we've seen from other appraisal districts. You know, obviously, this is the smallest amount by percentage-wise that you guys, in terms of growth, that you've seen in the last 4 years. And this does kind of follow a trend we've seen around the Houston area of smaller growth. Not really a concern, you know, as long as if the district grew every year for the rest of the time at 2.4%, it'd be perfectly fine. The following pages are prepared by Tammy McRae and her office. I want to highlight a couple numbers on this page here. So you'll recall we're about to begin a conversation about the mandatory tax election rate, which is based upon the change in the average tax bill, which is based upon the change in the average homestead value, okay? So the average homestead value last year is line number 3, $243,087. And then the average homestead value this year is line number 9, $263,282. So that is an increase of 8.31%. You know, the change or the growth, the increase, decrease, or change in the district as a whole is not the same as the increase, decrease, or change in the average homestead value. And so whereas the district as a whole grew by 2.4%, your average homestead value has grown by 8.31%. The following page, line 16, shows the average tax bill last year, $1,604. And then the bottom line there, 18, line 18, that shows the tax election tax rate of 65.81. So, if you were to adopt and levy 65.80, you would be below this 65.81. Does that make sense? Okay, we can come back to that certainly if there are other questions, and I don't mean to rush in any way. The next page is.
You did skip one page here, though.
Yeah, that's another page prepared by Tammy McRae, and just kind of shows the sort of where the certified values are coming from, the net taxable value. She's estimating a little bit higher than we are. We're a little bit more conservative, I guess, is what I would say there. You'll remember, you guys have seen these schedules now a few times. This is a cash flow analysis, an analysis of your debt service fund and your debt service obligations. The column here just to the right of center, current debt service, this is your actual debt service. We're not estimating anymore because you've sold and closed on the bonds. So going from left to right, on the left, the assessed valuation, that's the value we're using in this analysis, $242,411,000. And then to the right of that at the top, you see the 37 cents, right? We estimate that the 37 cents will bring into your debt service fund $878,985. And if you look at that current debt service column, you'll see that your average annual debt service requirements are more than the $878,985, which is another way of saying 37 cents is not sustainable forever, which is why you can see that that 37 needs to increase, in theory, up as high as 41 and a half. You know, for this year, and considering the impact, of course, we're taking into consideration the impact to the general fund, I'm comfortable with 37 cents. Again, this is something, you know, we don't need to spend too much time tonight worrying about where the district's gonna be in 2031. This is something that we will reevaluate every single year, right? And so, I'm comfortable making the recommendation of 37 cents, but I do wanna make the point that, if by some incredible miracle, the taxable assessed value of the district never changes from now until 2054 and just remains that same number for forever, we would need more than 37 cents.
Pretty unlikely.
Pretty unlikely.
I mean, even for 2026.
Right, of course, the numbers will change. Questions on the debt service fund or debt service tax rate recommendation? Yes, sir.
Assessed value stays the same through all the years,
Right,
but that's eventually gonna change, right?
exactly, it'll change
Okay.
next year.
Okay,
It'll change every year, and we will reevaluate every year.
okay.
Other questions? So the final page is an analysis of your general fund and your maintenance and operations tax rate. And you may be aware there were kind of several versions of your fiscal year 2026 budget, or several revisions going on throughout the day, and so throughout today. And so I kind of did my best to put us in the neighborhood, and I think you'll see, based upon what Deborah sent, that we are pretty close to where she sort of has ended up. Which is, by the way, speaking of numbers changing, you know, you guys haven't even looked at your 26 budget yet, and you can make amendments to that 26 budget at any time, right? What I have on this page is sort of the best information, the most up-to-date information that I was able to do before I got in the car to drive over here. So the number in the top right is your general fund balance. I believe this is from today's report, $1,641,000. And then what we have, I think Deborah was a little bit higher than this number. I think Deborah was below 1,750,000, so pretty close there. I made a remark before the meeting started, you know, your general fund balance has increased every year for the last 5 years, I believe. So, you know, that operating fund coverage percentage has improved year in and year out, which is, you know, a testament to your financial stewardship. So you're really approaching that 12-month reserve. I mean, you're basically there, which is really right where you want to be. Below that, I'm not sure this number is in your budget, but this number, the $691,000 is what is our estimate would be your maintenance tax receipts if you were to adopt and levy 28.8 cents. That's the 28.8 that was on the cover page, okay? And so I'm kind of showing this for illustrative purposes. If you were to adopt and levy 28.8 cents, then I'm estimating that you would have a budget deficit of $140,000. So you would be bringing down your general fund balance by about $140,000. Now, how much money are you going to spend between now and September 30th of 2026? It most likely won't be $1.7 million on the dot, and it most likely won't be the number that Deborah has in her report on the dot. You know, if there's any possibility that you may be able to spend less than the 1.7 million, then obviously your deficit would be less than 140,000. But even if your deficit was 140,000, and really you'll remember I make the remark that I make the recommendation for your debt service tax rate, the operations and maintenance side is much more in your purview. But, you know, with basically a 12-month reserve, I would suggest that, you know, you could maybe afford to lose $140,000 in the general fund. Let me come back to that other row in a minute, and I'm going to go to the bottom of the page. So here we return to the numbers that I mentioned just a couple minutes ago. The average homestead value last year, $243,087, and the average tax bill to the right of that last year, $1,604. Then below that, the average homestead value this year, $263,282, and to the right of that, if you were to adopt and levy 65.8 cents, that would be an increase to the average tax bill of $128. And then I include, basically just for illustrative purposes, you know, what it would look like if your maintenance tax rate was 30 cents and the aggregate was 67, but of course, remember that at 67, you would be above that tax election tax rate.
Going back to the general fund balance, do you have an expected amount that will be in September
Of 2026,
of 2025?
of 2025, well, I guess that depends on how much money you spend the next month. No, the short answer is no, I don't know, where I think you'll be on September 30th of 2025.
A predicted number?
Not really. That'd probably be a good question for Deborah. I don't have a good sense of your expected expenditures over the next 45 days.
Okay, what was the question? I can try to help.
Hi, Deborah. So the August 11th general fund balance is $1,641,000. Do you have any kind of an estimate of what the general fund balance would be September 30th of 2025?
No.
No.
I'm just trying to do some calculations. I don't have anything on the top of my head. I can help figure that out, of what their expected expenditures are between now and then. So I can look into that and see if I can get y'all an idea.
Well, there's nothing in the foreseeable future that's gonna bust our budget on anything, right?
No,
we would-
not that I know, more or less, but it's like, I don't know what expenses that you have coming in, you know, for the,
Not unless we can.
month of August and the month of September. You know, there may
So we
be,
New projects.
higher, you know, maintenance or you know, just different, you know, I don't know exactly what those last 2 months usually hold for you without pulling an analysis of what we normally pay in August and what we normally pay in September.
So I would just go along with what the budget states.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, so for this, or was it this month? We're usually doing about 100,000 of that,
Mm-hmm.
so that's what I said, if we looked at that. So the month of July. Oh, no, it's only 100,000 in the month of July. That's unusual, because it was 400 for the 10 months, for 50,000.
I show your 2025 budget had a $124,000 surplus. So, am I reading that right?
Well, but we also got that lawsuit money. That's why it's so much higher now. We got that lawsuit money. So, which we can use it to cover the deficit. Not raise the taxes and use it to cover the deficit. I mean,
Yeah, that's
that's
a
what
good
it's there
idea.
for.
Yep.
So remember, all you're doing today is you are picking a date when you will have your public hearing, and then you are picking a rate that will be published in the newspaper. And then when you have your public hearing, you can adopt and levy any tax rate that is equal to or less than what you publish, but you cannot adopt anything that is higher than what you publish.
And so these numbers were, figured using 65.8?
The aggregate tax
Right.
rate of 65.8.
Okay. And that keeps us under the threshold.
That keeps you under the tax election tax rate.
But it's also a decrease.
Right.
in
It's
the
a
rate.
decrease in the, yeah, because last year you were at 66,
Right.
so your tax rate would be coming down.
Good.
Both a nominal reduction in your rate and, you know, as Lauren said, lower than your projected, the rate that was originally projected when you sold the bonds, right? Which are both, I think, wins and good news.
Yeah.
And the other good news is we got that windfall. So we have money to cover it without going into our reserves.
And you have capital funds available to pay for, you know, a lot of the repairs that you've had to fund out of maintenance and operations. And hopefully, as we continue to make these large-scale repairs, which are much more cost-effective than these, you know, midnight line collapses, you know, you will continue to see lower M&O costs.
What's everyone's feelings?
I'd like to leave it where it is,
At 66.
not raising it.
I wanted to leave it at 65.8, lower it a little bit.
Mm.
Give them a little bit, I mean, we got that money to use to cover the deficit.
Yep.
I mean,
I like that idea. And it looks good if you say you lowered taxes.
This would be the first time you guys lowered your tax rate in many years.
And we can survive with it, so. So we need a motion
We
or?
need to motion it?
Yeah, Davis is gonna want a motion for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, what we'll need to do is we'll, need to propose, you know, a tax rate, and then we will call a hearing, at which we will consider the adoption of the rate, and that will be at your next regularly scheduled meeting. And we'll need to have a conversation about your meeting schedule, next month. And candidly, I think through the end of the year, just so you can have some sort of regularity to the meeting schedule. Just remind you that your next meeting, does not fall within the deadline to adopt your rate, provided by Montgomery County. So we'll have to move that meeting up as well. Your November meeting falls on Thanksgiving Day, and your December meeting falls on Christmas Day. And so, you know, after we get, past the tax rate discussion, I think we should have a conversation about maybe trying to find a uniform date through the end of the year that, you know, might make sense for everybody, so.
Yeah. I'll make a motion that we accept the proposed tax rate of, 0.658 for the fiscal year 26.
I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we'll work with, Montgomery County and get a notice of a public hearing, that'll be held at your next regularly scheduled board meeting, in which you will then consider the adoption of the rate,
Okay.
so.
Okay?
Do you wanna go ahead and talk about the meeting schedule, or do you all wanna wait until later in the meeting to do that?
We can do it now if you want.
September 8th.
Okay. In the past, one, I hoped, you know, it's always, there are a lot of people's schedules get straightened out. I thought that this Monday might work, going forward, but in the past, we've also done the third Thursday as opposed to the fourth. As I said, if you do the third Thursday, then you were just ahead of the deadline, from Montgomery County, to adopt your rate. You have to have it to them by September 19th, and that would be September 18th. I assume that y'all do not want to meet on Thanksgiving Day and Christmas Day. I think everybody should be with their families, on those days, and I would also, suggest that if you moved your October meeting, then it would allow you to meet once some meetings that were, 2 weeks apart, and then maybe going 6 weeks or something without meeting when you might have an issue arise.
Good for you guys?
No.
No.
September 15th would work for me on a Monday.
I think it's only the second Monday, right? Cause I think they all have other board meetings.
Yeah,
That's
this is the
Monday in
third,
September.
15th is the third Monday.
Yeah.
Let's see here, I mean, I can do the third Monday, but I need to make sure that works for,
Everybody else.
works for all the other consultants. Obviously, it didn't work for this, today didn't work for Taylor, and so I need to confirm with Taylor. That work for you, Paul, Mario?
Yeah, I can make it work, whatever, I can make it work. I know Taylor has a standing meeting this time on this exact Monday, so so if we
Yeah.
do that going forward, it'll be a conflict.
Let's see here, September 15th would be a third Monday, and this is a second Monday, so it'd be,
Okay, yeah, his
Maybe-
conflict is the second Monday.
okay.
I can do September 15th.
I can confirm with Taylor.
You can do Mario?
Yeah, the 15th I
Okay,
can.
Mario
On the
can do
8th,
the
I have a
15th.
conflict.
That's good for me.
Okay. So is everyone okay with me looking at the third Monday?
Okay.
So we'll plan on September 15th, subject to, and I'll see if I can ping Taylor real quick.
Okay.
Works for me.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, thanks. So that'll be the third Monday through the end of the year. And we can put a note on the website or do something like that, but I think that will make it easier hopefully for the board and for consultants and for just generally operationally. So always an awkward time
That'd
this
be
time of year.
15th, the 20th, 17th, and 15th,
15th of September.
and the 20th of
October
October,
20th.
17th of November, and 15th of December.
Okay.
Said to October again.
October
October's
20th,
the 20th.
Third Monday.
and then November 17th.
Mark, make note, we're changing all those dates right now.
Well, we'll have to make sure that it's published properly
We're
next
pending,
time.
right now, we're setting dates, so.
Right, so it'd be September 15th, October 20th, November 17th, and December 15th
Agreed.
at 6:30. Okay,
All right.
all right, thank you very much.
Cool.
Thank you,
sir.
guys. Nice to see you.
See you.
Okay.
Okay, this is the September one when we had the hearing,
Oh, September,
is when we're gonna have the hearing?
15th.
yeah.
The hearing will be September 15th.
Okay, that says the 8th.
Well, that's what it was gonna be.
Yeah.
It was gonna be, and then we,
Jim, is that a public hearing on the 15th?
huh?
Is that a public hearing on the 15th?
Yeah, we have it right before we have our regular meeting. So it's usually at 6 o'clock, and then we have our regular meeting.
It'll actually be part of it'll just be an agenda item on the agenda, Julie. It'll be
Okay, so
part
we're
of
gonna do
the
it at 6:30 and do it the
meeting.
first thing? Okay, so 6:30.
That's right, we'll open the floor, for a public, for public comment on the tax rate.
Okay. Are we good to continue?
Thank you.
Okay, no problem. Financial and bookkeeping matters.
Hello, everybody. This is Deborah Logan. How are you guys doing tonight?
All
Good.
right, thank you.
Let me find the budget.
All right, you all have my report. I'm not sure if you have the most recent copy of the proposed budget. We'll go over the regular bookkeeping report first, and then we'll, talk about, the proposed budget, if that's all right with everybody. From your last meeting, your general fund left off at $41,753.84. You did receive a very large, insurance claim from Liberty Mutual for $569,000. I didn't get a whole lot of information about what this, was reimbursing, so if your operator, might be able to fill me in on, what repairs this was for and, what, that way I can make sure to apply it, because we like to apply it, even though it may have happened in a prior fiscal year, we still like to apply it back to the actual categories in which the expense happened in the first place.
Deborah, we can, oh, Paul, go ahead.
Yeah, okay, let me toot my own horn for here just 1 second. So, Deborah, that's one of the two, settlement checks coming in on the Takis litigation, and so,
Okay,
the
that's
board had.
Takis, okay.
Yeah, and it's not your fault that you didn't know. The board had not reported on that publicly yet, because we wanted to have the money in the bank before it was made known. So this is probably a good time to do that if I could. We settled the Takis lawsuit. We spent a little bit of money. We didn't give up like the rest of the governmental entities, and we were able to recover $600,000 for this district. And so we're proud to add that to the bank account. The two things real quick I'll add is that is some of the money that the board members were talking about could cover the deficit that would allow the tax rate not to be raised. So this was a really, really good thing that the board did, and accomplished something outstanding for the community. So the second thing is, where do we put it? That is outside of my expertise. So this may be a Davis question, maybe a board question. There is some of that is reimbursing the district's costs. So there were legal fees, there were professional fees, which would include the engineers and the operator. There were also about $106,000 worth of repair costs known to date. And then the rest of that is the proceeds from the litigation. So, how we book that, I don't know, but that's what they have, and I'm happy to help however I can on that.
Okay, well, we check it out there, separately on our P&L for the year, and, I mean, I think it kind of needs just to be considered miscellaneous income or something, since it's only gonna be a one and done situation. And, I'm not, I don't know, your auditors may feel differently, they may wanna see it offset, those individual expenses, if we can track those back, of what they really are, or if we can just call it the Takis settlement and consider it miscellaneous, and of course it won't be on our budget, and it won't be budgeted for in the future either, so it's kind of a one and done situation.
Deborah, we can discuss it more offline, but the way settlements work, we don't get line item by line item, this is what was being reimbursed, and so I think the best way to put it is miscellaneous income, and we can talk about whether or not with the auditor, whether or not we need to offset anything, so.
Okay, that sounds great.
Yep, thanks.
All right, and congratulations, you guys, this is by far the largest that I've seen come through. Most of the districts aren't getting anything, and, a couple of them are scraping to get $4,000 or $5,000 from them. So, we have several districts in the same situation, so this is outstanding, so way to go, you guys.
Great work, Paul.
Yeah. Oh, well, no, thank you, and we do have one more check. It's being delivered to my office tomorrow, so we'll make sure to flag that for you to put in that itemization as well.
Okay, will do. Thank y'all. Right, the next item there is we did receive the check from Mr. Catolo, and this was for the easement retaining wall for $4,000. That's been deposited as well. We moved $500,000 to your investment fund, your general operating tax cost fund. In between meetings, we did pay two checks, one for office cleaning and one for Director Tim Goodwin's and expense reimbursement. And then today, for your approval, we do have Director Denham's AWBD conference reimbursement, and then your monthly expenses follow. J&K came out and did some tree trimming and removal services, so please look at that invoice, make sure it's what you were expecting. Everything else that you're seeing, I believe you're used to seeing on a monthly basis, all the way down to the Raddick Law Firm legal fees. I'm not sure if that's also associated with the Takis, but I know that's not your regular attorney, so I do like to check those invoices there. And then refunds wrap it up on the first page. It leaves that account balance at Central Bank at $76,101.07. The next page shows your account at Central Online, which shows your total receivables from your operator of $72,332.07. And then it also shows your tax class investment funds. The district has total general operating funds of $1,641,189.27. In your tax account, you did receive some tax collections in the amount of $14,675.55. We did the various transfers to general operating and debt service. You are 96.28% collected as of the end of July. Page sheet 3 shows your capital projects fund and your debt service fund. I don't have anything coming out today, any disbursements for capital projects. And your debt service fund just show that transfer from your tax account in the amount of $25,000. You do have an upcoming debt service payment September 1st. We will be taking care of that payment over the next couple weeks. And you have more than adequate funds to cover that payment. Page 4 shows your sewer treatment plant. You did receive receivables from RPMUD for your share, and the expenses that you have for your review today are just your normal expenses. There's nothing out of the ordinary. Just let me know if y'all have any questions when you review that. It does leave the account negative, but that's not a problem because we bill you, the same district, and that check is collected the same night of the meeting. Page 5 is your joint drainage. Same scenario, we received a payment from RPA and only one check, and that's for bookkeeping fees, came out of here, there for your approval tonight. I wanted to go ahead and show you your standard P&Ls that you're used to seeing, which are just a monthly P&L. So the next pages show your July P&L, and your joint facilities is the month of June, showing where we bill the entire month out to the participants. But it is time for us to look at your proposed budget for 2026. So we have moved all of your actuals that actually cover through today's meeting over to our budget worksheet, and for all three funds. And if the board's ready, I'd like to review this with the board.
I'm ready.
Sure.
Again, any questions on bookkeeping?
Oh, Deborah, do you know what the interest rate is that Texas Class is paying? Is it?
Yes, I do. Just one second. I believe it is a nice 4.3 or 4.4. Give me 1 second.
How much?
It's been holding very nicely. 4.39.
Oh, okay.
How much you say?
4.39.
That's down a little bit.
Yeah, I haven't really seen it go. It's been holding like very steady in the 4.3s and 4.4. So the year-to-date yield, that's your average as of right now today. Your year-to-date yield for Texas Class is 4.44. So I don't know what numbers y'all normally look at if you're comparing something, but your year-to-date is 4.44 and the daily is 4.39. Right. Any other questions on the bookkeeping report before we dive into some budgets?
Nope.
Okay. Right, you're gonna have 3 budgets here, and again, I'm not sure if you have the most recent general operating. The very first budget that should be in your packet is going to be your sewer treatment plant, and then we'll review that slightly, and then we'll review your joint drainage. These numbers have to be tackled down 100% because they flow into our general operating fund. this is a zero net gain fund, which means we talk about the expenses of what we expect next year. When we get the bottom line expenses, we bill them based off of the participant's share to RPMUD and East Plantation to get a zero net gain. So we always like to talk about these first, because if there's any changes here, then there's going to be changes all the way into the general fund as well. So the first one that you should have is your STP, and the expenses on there, just so that you know the format of the way that you set it up. The first column are your actuals, which include all the expenses through today's meeting. The second column is your budget that's in place that doesn't end until September 30th. And the third column is what we're proposing for next year, ending September 30th, 2026. What we do behind the scenes is look at those actuals. We look at every category and we see how many months are in there, because some months are only going to have 10 months, or some months are going to only have 9 months, depending on when we've received invoices and all of that. So we kind of look at where your actuals are, and then we estimate where we expect you to finish your year. And then we look if there's going to be any growth, or we reach out to your consultants to see if you have any major projects expected for next year. And we get everybody's input that we can, and then that gives you your proposed budget on the far right-hand side. So it's a lot of work that goes into it, and so what we like to do is kind of compare what we have in the budget versus what we're changing. And you can see the first category doesn't change at all. The expenses for garbage, those are changing. That is, just based on what you're being charged right now. And typically the district has a 3% CIP built into the contract. So that's what we've upped it up to what you're paying right now, plus a little small 3% increase, and that's where we got to the $3,300. Your laboratory fees, you look like you're going to come in slightly lower than this year's budget when we finish the year. And so we felt like the budget for next year was adequate, no changes there. Same with some of the other expenses, permit fees and operator expense. When you're on target, we're not going to rock the boat. Repairs and maintenance under the sewer plant, though, however, we have gone over our budget this year. What we try to do is take out any kind of one and done projects. And reduce it by that, because we're not going to have to do those projects again. But then we still look at the average monthly expense that you're paying, and we project it out. So we did give the fund a little bit more growth on that maintenance and repairs, and bump that up to $250,000. Same scenario with sludge removal. Just based off of what you're paying now, we did push that up just slightly, as we expect to finish the year a little bit higher than our budget amount this year. Same with chemicals, and then we're back on track for your telephone, your utilities, and engineering and bookkeeping. None of that changed. The engineer, you haven't spent anywhere near that number, but Time has told me that I don't usually mess with my legal budget or my engineering budget without them telling me. So I tend to leave that earmarked just in case there is a project that they need to have that money earmarked in this fund. The districts are not charged by this budget. They're only charged actuals. So this is just an earmark just in case. And as Lauren told you earlier, you can amend at any time. The last category, nothing really changed, just a little bit in other expenses, bumped that up. It gives you a total expense projected of $504,960. That number has been divided up between the two districts based on their shares to put you to a net gain of 0. So, I won't be as long on the next budget, I promise, because now you understand the format and the flow. But do y'all have any questions on the STP before I go into the joint drainage? Okay, we're good? All right. page should be your joint printed budget. This one's a little bit more condensed. Repairs and maintenance didn't really have anything in this category this year, but we kept it earmarked just in case. Utilities stayed same. Audit fees, you did charge audit fees, and they usually have a small increase, so we planned for that next year. Engineering, this fund did have some activity this year for engineering, so we looked at how we expected to finish the year and plugged that budget in for next year. And then a small increase in just miscellaneous expenses. That leaves a total expense for $64,450 and pushed it back up to bill both participants their share. And again, these are just projections, and they're only billed actuals as they happen. Okay, are we ready for general operating?
Yes.
The general operating budget, same scenario, first column to the left, those are your actuals as of today. Second column is what our 25 was, and 26 is what I projected out. So just kind of looking at some of the things that changed. Your water revenue has increased, so we wanted to expect that increase next year as well. So we just projected out. We're gonna finish our year this year over our budget now, which is always a good thing. And then we do expect a small increase for next year as well. And then tap connections, unless you guys tell me something different, I did cheat this down. You only received $4,800 in tax this year so far. And I don't know if y'all have anything new happening in that connection category. So you can let me know if I do need to change that back or add anything to that. Your Lone Star fees, they're right on track, and didn't see need to change that. The same with your sewer. Your sewer is more of a flat number, and you're going to be right on target this year. And so we just anticipated next year we will be right on track as well. Now, under maintenance taxes, this is the one Lauren was talking about. Your budget last year was the $953, and Lauren wanted me to put in $720. So this is dependent on which one of those projected rates that he showed y'all tonight. And we can amend this if we need to, if you end up picking a different rate. But he wanted to, put in what he thought you would be at. So we plugged in $720,000. Actually, I think it was David that told me, not Lauren. But anyway, that is what we were given that number to just anticipate what you might do at tax time. We were able to push down terminations and connections. This is a number that we actually hope not to get revenue on. This is people, getting terminated and bouncing checks and getting those fees charged and all that. So we don't like to over project for that revenue. We hope our residents aren't going to do that, but sometimes we do, and we get that revenue. So we did cheat that down to more of a conservative level of the revenue there. The next categories are very small, just your TCEQ collections that you're doing. We match that to what you should be collecting next year from your residents. And then your miscellaneous income, that's again a part of one that this is where we're going to put that TACUS claim for this year. But next year we know that that's a one and done, so we won't budget for it. Your interest income, your budget for last year, it doesn't look like we're going to quite get there. I think your fund balances were just a little bit different than what we anticipated. And so we won't quite get there, and it's also dependent on the economy, so I never want to over budget on our interest. I always want to overproduce. So hopefully we'll beat those numbers and I'll look like a champ, but I wanted to cheat that down a little bit just to make sure that we're not overstating that income. So with these projections, it puts you at $1,580,110 in revenue. Your expense follow. They're in, the, 3 different categories. You have water, sewer, and then other district administrative expenses. I won't go to each line item, you kinda get the flow. Laboratories, those expenses, across all of our districts are going up. So we did push that budget up a little bit accordingly. Most of your other line items there are right on, target. Your repairs and maintenance, that's where we put originally, that's where I quoted that insurance, so that's why it's showing that I thought it was an insurance claim, and so I plugged it into this category just to make my budget match, and I thought it had to do with getting reimbursed for an insurance claim. I'm gonna pull that out, that's the TACUS, and so when we pull that out, that will no longer be negative. David said that some of the repairs that you had to encounter this year, he didn't expect to happen next year. So we were able to take some of those things out and expected about $241,197 this year. Landscaping, your contract, you're not spending nearly what was in your budget, so we pushed that down to what you are spending. And utilities, slightly higher, we gave ourselves a little bit more room there. Your tap connections, that also coordinates with the tap revenue at the top. So if you're expecting taps, we changed both of those categories. We bumped the revenue up, and we increased the expense associated with it at the same time. So those kind of work hand in hand. Under your sewer, the first line there, that comes from our sewer budget. So that's the one I said, we have to have that number tackled down, and then it flows straight over to your general operating budget. So that's the projected number that you're gonna pay into your sewer treatment plant fund. And then the other numbers, not a whole lot of changes there. We did increase repairs and maintenance, but not as much as what we spent, because they were still one and done projects. There was about one project that looked like it was $30,000 that should be complete. So I took that number out completely when we did this projection. And landscape service, the same thing. Unless y'all have a big landscape job coming up, then we should be able to push that number down. And then we have purchase drainage, your purchase drainage, that's just based off of,
What is that?
and, I'll have to refresh my memory with what goes there.
That's because of the joint drainage budget.
Oh, yeah, okay, sorry, I'm like, why is it going up so high? Yes, that's your joint drainage budget, sorry, that's your share and the proposed budget of joint drainage, thank you. Lost my train of thought there, guys. Chemicals, we separate those, our coding, and we needed to increase that budget accordingly. We try to track water chemicals and sewer chemicals differently, so we did need to make that budget where it matched. And then the last item there is maintenance and repairs park. You guys can let me know if you are planning to do this, or if it's just a placeholder just in case. We didn't code anything to that this year, so it's just, it could be that y'all just say, well, let's put something in the budget just in case something has to be done at the park. But that is earmarked for $40,000. Our last category to wrap this up is our other administrative expenses, director fees, the activity in the district, and the number of meetings that you had. We did need to increase that slightly. It also changes payroll whenever we do that. So that was calculated just based off of what we would have to pay. Your auditor, the reason that there's 24 in this year's budget is the invoice came late, and he was paid for the prior year and last year all in 1 year. We didn't want to budget for that again. Hopefully invoices will get there on time, and we would only pay 1 year at a time. But you did only pay like the $12,000, or I think it's 12 or 14,000, $12,000. And so we just budgeted that he would come with a small increase for this coming fiscal year. Engineering, that number was provided to me, as what to expect this coming year, so we plugged that in. Same with election expense, I believe Julie said that, she wanted that plugged in for $20,000, we did that. Everything else, the rest of the way down is right on target. The repairs and maintenance part here, I don't know why you have to and if you need to. So you can let me know what you guys thought was on that and if I need to take one away. But one of the categories, which is where the expenses are being coded, is repairs and maintenance part, but the other one's called the same thing. That confused me and I needed y'all's help on that.
I don't understand why we have one under sewer.
Yeah. So, that was a question I had today, but I was gonna wait till Tiffany got back to ask Tiffany. But I'm wondering if one of them is the replacement of the landscaping once we do a sewer project or do a water repair or something like that. And one of them was, I don't know,
It says
but I
project,
added them,
though.
I know, but I added them up. That's what I was doing, was while you were doing the thing. I added up the budgeted amounts and I added up the actual amounts. And
It's pretty close.
they're, yeah.
So it's probably yard repair.
They're lumped in there somewhere. I just don't know how they're lumped in or whatever. So, that's why I figured I'd wait till Tiffany got back and we figure out what was where.
Yeah, I mean,
have plenty
everything's
of
kind
notes.
of going in that last category, cause we spent $34,000 out of our $60,000 budget. We've spent zero of the other $40,000, so I'm kinda thinking we had it in one place and then we moved it to another and it just didn't get zeroed out. So, I'm kinda leaning towards that we probably don't need that $40,000 budget unless y'all know of something that's specifically, playground equipment or something that you were going to do for $40,000.
Well, we're gonna, yeah, we're gonna be close. So, that,
Okay.
we're gonna, yeah.
Okay, well, you can let me know if you, or let Tiffany know, that would be great. And we have some time, this is just, going over it in depth, for you tonight, and then you have the whole rest of the month to look at it, and, it has to be approved by your September, meeting, the end of September, with any changes from any of your consultants. That does lead me to the last page of your, budget, which is, just not a whole lot of changes there. I did receive, input for adding tree replacement and takedown, so that $40,000. I'm not sure if your copy shows that, because this one came out late on the press, but we did add in a copy, a line item as requested for tree replacement and takedown for $40,000. And then everything else was pretty much on track and didn't need to be, changed. Your insurance, that just goes based off of what you're paying. So with the most recent version of the budget, it puts you at a deficit of $142,211. And like I said, we may have some additional changes, but this is basically the number that Lauren told you about, that you have more than adequate funds, and especially with that caucus, to cover, dipping into your general operating reserve this year to cover that.
Very good.
I know that was a lot to digest, and again, you have the whole month to kind of peruse it, so let me know if you have any questions tonight, or if you need me to provide you anything else.
I've got a question on the other revenue, on this end. So the interest income, so are you counting interest rates going down, or are you counting interest rates staying steady?
I try to do it conservatively, so I assume that they're going to stay flat, and not go up. But I also am on the very conservative I mean, we may, exceed that 45, but, like I said, it makes me look better if we do. I just don't wanna put in 50 and then come in at 48.
Sure.
So, but what I normally do is assume that the rates are going to stay flat. Unless you know something that I don't, that they're gonna go down again.
Nobody can predict
Everything I'm
interest
seeing
rates.
is that they're kinda starting to go back up.
That was my only question.
I have a question, in that same section, customer service inspections, maybe somebody else on the board can explain it to me, but that's a revenue, what is that?
Those are inspections that we do, as far as the plumbing, when there's remodeling, change of ownership or a new build. Just ensure all the plumbing is correct, to spec.
And that's revenue, they're having to
Yeah.
pay for that service, I guess?
Yeah.
But it's been lower, so I guess there's an assumption that, it's gonna be fewer this coming
We did-
fiscal year.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't really have anything coded there. I'm not sure if the recap breaks it out that way, or if we just didn't have any.
Okay.
You know, with an older, built-out district, then you don't see these as often. It's just, you know, every once in a while, the operator's having to go out and do these, and so that number goes away. It's more of a category when there's a whole lot of TAC revenue coming in, then you have a lot of the inspections going on associated with that. So, you know, we pushed it down a little bit, but, you know, your operator can let me know, yeah, we have, you know, we still have some going on, you should see some revenue coming in or something, you know, whatever you guys need me to do.
Thank you.
Do I have a motion to accept the bookkeeper's report?
I make a motion to accept the bookkeeper's report and, the checks payable.
Oh, and authorize the payment of checks, okay.
I
Payment of
second.
bills. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right,
My lips to work.
do we need to approve the budget tonight, Davis, or you want us to wait till the next meeting? With
You
some
don't have to,
changes?
you can, it's entirely up to the board, so.
You wanna approve it with changes to be made, or maybe clarification to be made?
I'd
Okay.
rather see it, please.
Okay, that's good, okay. Okay, wait till
Yeah.
next month?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, operators report.
All right. Good evening, board. We got the July 25 report in front of you. The connections of 978 with 37 vacancies. Revenues totaling $72,240.96. Bill consumption of $7,713,000. Have total pumpage of $8,759,000. We are at 93% accounted for this month with 2 leaks repaired. All 6 bacteriological samples were taken, all came back good. Below that, we have our wastewater treatment plant numbers. Everything is working within parameters, no excursions or breaches. We did have a little bit, almost 5.5 inches of rain. The plant operated at 65% of its permitted capacity. We had almost $6 million in reuse, and I'm not sure why we have the zero reuse there, but I'll bring you that number next month. We have our age receivables totaling $65,183.11 with your chart just below that of consumption. And then next page, we have our accountability report. Again, we are at 93%, 94 for a 12-month average, and the 2 charts reflecting those. Typically, we will give you the copy of the DMR that we submit, but since we met a little early this month, it hasn't gone out yet. And that's all I have, unless you have any questions.
I have a question. I've been hearing on the news a couple times of municipalities getting amoebas in their water. Do we test for that?
Well, I think that's gonna be part of the new sampling, but as far as of right now, we don't. But we will, with the new PFAS sampling, that I'm sure that's one of the items that'll be in there.
And is chlorine kill amoebas?
Yes, my understanding. That's all I have.
They have stationary water for that.
Yeah, we pull the monthly, the raw water sample before we get chlorination. We pull that bacteriological sample, so we're good, we're covered on our sides.
Can you make a note to get that report that I asked you for the other day? I forgot about it till just
Actually,
now.
you know what, I think I have it in my email, I'm gonna,
Okay.
I'll check and forward it to you.
Okay.
It's,
Make a motion,
Done.
we accept the operating
Okay.
report.
Do I have a second?
A second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
thank you.
Okay, let's see, operation, engineers report. Nothing new, or we're gonna go on to the next, okay. The agreement for the water line construction, he's not here.
I know we had a request for an authorization to bid a project.
What project?
Is the corner store?
I think so. I think it's a cornerstone. We're gonna talk about it in a minute. The agreement for the water line construction with Cornerstone Church.
Austin, you wanna take that one?
Sure, so we prepared the water line agreement for the construction of that water line for Cornerstone Church. It accounts for the approximately $180,000 deposit that they would pay, which would cover the engineering and construction of the water line on a refundable basis. So any funds which we do not use will be returned to the church, and they would otherwise pay the regular commercial tap fee as they have received water service in the past. And otherwise, it's a fairly simple agreement with a 2-year effective date, and otherwise just covers our costs and leaves a trail for us.
Do we need to approve that since?
Yes, we would ask for your approval of the contract today. We'll get that over to Cornerstone for review with Taylor.
A motion to approve the agreement?
I make a motion, we approve the agreement with the church.
Do I have a second?
A second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
This
Julie,
one
is that gonna
take
go to
us-
plant 3?
Huh?
Is that gonna go to plant 3?
I believe so.
I think
Yeah.
this is.
It's gonna go across under
They
the
got a diagram.
bridge.
East ditch.
Okay, number 11, storage and posting of previously recorded and posted open meeting videos on district's website.
Okay, there've been a couple questions on this topic recently. Obviously, the board adopted the policy addressing the manner in which the recordings would be dealt with going forward. But we have the matter of the remaining recordings that are sitting on the site. And so I think we just need to decide what needs to be done with those. I assume that y'all don't want to just leave it up, and so it kind of appears that you maybe are forgetting to post them going forward or something like that. We have talked to Monty, and I think at with minimal effort and expense, they can pull them down into a Dropbox and save them. And just as we are gonna save them all going forward, we would just save the rest of them. We can also leave them up on the website. I know that there have been some security concerns as of late. So it's entirely up to the board. Just wanted to put it on the agenda for the board to give us some direction on how best to proceed.
So they're already in our Dropbox, right? So all he would have to do is take the link down to the website, right? Or no?
That's my understanding.
We have to get them to, Monty before, and he puts them in the Dropbox, as I understand it, unless you're doing it.
Well, that's what we're saying.
I put them in one section of the Dropbox, but I don't see the whole Dropbox, so I haven't seen the whole list of all of them in there. I only see the current ones that go in there, and then those get taken out. So but they're somewhere because they're linked to the,
Well, didn't we have a subscription to Dropbox,
Yeah,
right?
it's
We have our own
it's paid through
subscription.
our
Yeah.
website.
Yeah. So maybe is it as simple as him just not linking that Dropbox to the website?
He noted in his email to us that there was some sort of removal process. and transferring process that would be required.
So,
And that was, that's it. I
Davis,
think the only difference here is the Dropbox service is $12 a month. And, I think that that's something that's ultimately gonna be passed on to the district either way, so.
Already
Yeah,
had that.
Because
we
of the
have-
news
we already
stories
have-
going
we already
forward,
have the,
so.
Davis, we already have the Dropbox, but we don't link the website to the Dropbox. We link the website to YouTube, I believe. And then, so those are uploaded to YouTube, but the copy is
Oh,
kept
so he's
on
gotta get them off of
Dropbox.
YouTube,
So that,
probably.
or they can stay there, it doesn't matter, or something, but we don't have to put the link, we can take the links down, put them up there. So
Okay.
just for clarification, we don't link to the Dropbox.
From the Dropbox,
Or
okay,
to the Dropbox.
okay.
But I would like to bring up something else here too, is now, the way we're doing this, somebody's gonna have to do a Freedom of Information Act to get a copy of the video. I would like to simplify that and, I mean, the whole idea here is to avoid security issues from some fraudulent characters from getting the information and then doing scam kind of things. I would like to make it available if someone registers and we determine that they are a resident of the district, that they can have access to the Dropbox of those videos where they can get to them and not have to go through the Freedom of Information Act, because that costs the resident money and it costs us money because we have
Well,
to
who
pay
are they
more.
gonna register with, and who's gonna approve that they're a resident, and who's gonna?
There's multiple ways of doing that. A lot of companies do that, like Google does that. If you know My Business, if you've ever done that, they do a verification thing. But the operator has all the residents' information here, and it could be as simple as an email that we have on record, or a letter that's on record. We send them a little note. But once they're on once, then we don't have to do it again. They have it, but we give them access to it. I'm sure we can work that out with Monty of how we give access to different individuals, and get away from this each month, people asking for Freedom of Information request and the cost that goes along with that.
Aren't we kind of defeating the purpose?
No.
Cause what if the scammer is somebody that lives here?
What are the chances
Can I ask
of
a
that?
question?
Yeah.
Somebody off the street turns in a Freedom of Information Act to get that data, can they do that?
Sure can.
They can, as
So-
long, but it goes through the attorneys.
Yeah, but anybody can.
But anybody can do it.
Yeah, anybody
They don't
can.
have to verify that you're a resident,
Correct.
so anybody can get it in this system, whereas in Carl's system, there is some checks and balances. Seems pretty easy.
Yeah, but
Maybe.
you can't deny them though, can you? You can't
No,
just.
somebody could still do that, even if you did what I'm saying. Someone can still do outside the district, they can still come in and request it. We can't stop them, but Davis, you do get information from them, but you don't verify that it's true, right, is my understanding?
That's right, and we're actually prohibited from asking, really any questions of the requester, right? I mean, other than, some statutory ability to request, clarification and things like that when we get overly broad requests. We can't ask, who you are, why are you requesting this, all that kind of stuff. But I'm sure that we could work with Monty and get some sort of, second Dropbox or something like that set up that,
I think it's defeating the purpose.
people that the board, felt like were verified, residents or taxpayers would have access to, that would, prevent us. I mean, so far, we've only had one request, for the video. My guess is you're not gonna get a ton, but you'll probably get a few. And you'll probably know exactly who those people are, and they're probably the same people that would make open records requests. Anyway, but it's entirely up to the board, so.
Now, are you gonna be taking the videos
It has
off?
to be something that they
Yes.
can't change anything.
Okay, what about
can
my
only-
video?
Of course.
Read-only type
It's a
access.
read-only.
Those are yours, they're not on our thing.
Well, they're on the website. Remember the ones
There-
that I
there's links.
let you put on?
Yeah, there
Are
links.
those shouldn't be taken off YouTube, cause they're mine, right?
I didn't think that through, whether we take them off YouTube or not, to me, I don't think that's a big deal. There's no security issue there, cause they're old, there's no current information there.
Right.
And along with that current information thing, another thing I thought of is, we don't give access to anybody for 2 weeks. That is a big security
No, I don't think
saver
it's
there.
2 weeks, you upload it usually on Friday, and it's usually up there by Tuesday or Wednesday.
That's what I'm saying, but now we wait 2 weeks to provide more security for that. Now, if it's a freedom of information one, it takes 10 days for those anyway.
Right,
Those
so
are
you-
pretty good. We can have Monty wait 10 days before it goes onto the actual Dropbox that we give people access to.
If he remembers.
Yeah, apparently.
Okay, I was doing some research on this, and it seems the MUD really doesn't have personal information. It goes to the operator and then, of course, to whoever's doing the bond. So they need to have duplicate, authentication to protect it. I mean, that's all I have seen on YouTube or on Google when I've checked,
That's,
and it's.
it's not what happened. So,
So yeah, but give an example, cause that doesn't make sense.
so anyway, we've already voted to remove them. Why are we going back on what we voted on doing?
May I
Because
make
this
a
is gonna cost
suggestion?
more money if,
Well,
even if.
Carl get with Monty and see what they can work out, that might be a viable.
Davis
way.
has already done that. That's what they did.
Not to,
Well,
you're
and-
correct, I don't know about the old stuff.
Well, why is he talking about a second Dropbox? We don't need a second, I don't think.
No, we don't.
Yeah, they didn't
So
vote to remove
if there's gonna be a Freedom of Information Act every month, that's gonna be an expense for us every month and the residents every month. So you want a copy
So
of
you're
those
gonna
for
respond to
residents.
all Freedom of Information Act requests? You know how to do that?
No, I'm not going to. I'm saying for the residents, we give them access as, going forward. You don't have to do a Freedom of Information Act if you're a resident. We set up a Dropbox where they register, we verify who they are, and they have access to it going forward.
I think we're defeating the whole purpose of what we voted on last month.
I don't see, the city of Houston doing the same thing.
I don't
And
think
I know
we're,
we're not the city of
I don't
Houston.
think we're trying to protect ourselves from the residents. We're trying to protect ourselves from some scammers who are doing this.
May not be in
illegally.
the same country, you know, the scammers. That's who we're trying to protect ourselves from, right?
Well, but
And
they
it
are
could
just-
be, even though Davis, y'all cannot collect information from them, but still they had to do it electronically, and there's an IP address and so forth, and it could be, you know, they can still be identified at some, you know, if an investigation needed to be done. Just a thought.
Yeah,
No.
I think there's probably some truth to that. And as I said, we've gotten one request, so far. And I don't know how many requests we'll get going forward, and we can talk to Monty about the, you know, how a second Dropbox or something like that could be administered in a, you know, in a safe way. My guess is we'll probably get one or two requests, you know, every month. So entirely up to the board. So not necessarily something you have to decide on tonight. We can talk to Monty about it, but my guess is there's, you know, at some point you probably want to at least update the website and then think about, you know, what you put on YouTube and whether or not you want it, you know, to continue to sit out there. So
Yeah, I don't think we want it on YouTube at all.
okay.
Okay,
That's my theory.
Not the new one, but what's out there, I
Correct.
think needs to go down.
And
didn't
it would only be for the district's account, not for anyone else's.
Right. If they're in your account, we have no say-so on your account.
oh yeah, but I mean, I had given some of the old ones, you know.
But if you still have, if they're still on your account, they're still on your account on YouTube.
Okay, so
Has nothing
just
to
so,
do with what
well,
we
I
have.
didn't know if Monty could take them off YouTube or whatever, so, okay.
And-
They're yours.
And I'll just note, I know we've had some security discussions, but I do think it's worth noting that there have been instances where it appears that information was gleaned from public records that were made available, regarding payments, pay estimates, things like that, that has been used to perpetrate, you know, fraud attempts,
Now,
right?
you're talking about other MUDs that this has happened to, not ours.
Other MUDs, and we have had, security concerns here as well.
They just not were
So
successful.
one in particular that was not successful. So, but in other MUDs, there has been, you know, spoofing of email addresses and, attempts to, you know, let's say you watched a video and got information on a pay application, number and amount and the name of the contractor, and you pretend to be the contractor and contact the bookkeeper and say, hey, mail the check to this address this month, or something along those lines.
Well, that's why I say the
Or wire the
bookkeeper.
funds. Attempts like that are
Yeah.
happening. We don't know exactly how, they're getting the information or where it's coming from. But those are the types of fraud attempts that we are seeing in other districts, so.
Okay, but the bookkeeper should have some security thing going on so that doesn't happen. 'Cause As I said, the
That's how
month-
they got, that's how they got
And
one.
you always hope that everybody catches it and that, nobody, makes mistakes, but you know, the more you can do to make it difficult on the, you know, fraudsters, you hope that
Yeah.
helps as well, so.
Okay.
Just it is a real issue these days, and there are other districts that have lost several $1 million, as a result of these fraud attempts.
Yeah, I know, one came through the investment group or something. It was like 8 million, they got 3 million back. That was.
Yeah, it's a big problem, so, you know, anything we can do to,
Minimize it.
you know, secure the district's funds, obviously we wanna do.
Okay, well, I would put it on YouTube, but I mean, I'm waiting whatever time frame or whatnot, because people would like to know what's going on at the meetings. So how, I don't want that to be a problem, but,
Yeah, we can talk about that. I mean, ultimately, it's up to you. I think what's being discussed is maybe an option that would give those members of the public who wish to have access a means to watch the videos without them being posted on YouTube. And maybe a way for us to hopefully at least think that we have some idea of who's watching those videos, right? Like we know you, I know your email address. You make the request, you know, we add you, right? And there are probably a few other people that would do the same.
But if you post it
Maybe
to
not a
YouTube,
perfect
it's
solution,
open to
but
the world.
maybe a little more secure than simply posting them on YouTube where a
I'm not suggesting.
bot or something might, you know, scrape all the information.
well, I'll tell you what I used to do. I used to do audios of these meetings, and then I would just transcribe them pretty much. You know, give people an update. Of course, it wasn't anything having to do with who we're paying money to or whatnot, just what was going on.
Like a synopsis
Yeah.
of the
Yeah.
meeting.
And Dee, I will tell you, when you started doing this, we weren't having the types of issues that we're seeing now. This has largely been a problem that has become very prevalent in the last 6 months or so. So,
Ultimately, it's still available to someone who does a freedom of information request.
That's
But
true.
it's
It's true.
still- but
But that's one more step they have to
That's
go
right.
to.
And we're hoping that possibly
Yes.
they won't do it because
Right.
there's a chance of being identified by them having to go through the freedom of information. Whereas before, they could just go online and
Right.
obtain it.
So what I'm proposing is we give residents
I like it.
an idea, a way of avoiding
Yep.
going through the freedom of information. Act
Simplify
for
it.
every video they wanna see.
Somebody just said to outline the
Well,
program.
Well, anybody can get it through the Freedom of Information Act.
But
Carl
you
says,
have to go
Carl's,
through the
well, you have to go and you put in the
extra
request
step.
and do that.
Correct.
And if you're gonna make $2 million and what's, $10, $15 or whatever. But Carl's way, at least we have a check and balance to see who's getting that, or not allowing them to just go through the Freedom of Information Act. Anybody can do that.
So we're gonna pay MOC to monitor it? I mean, that's what you're gonna have to do.
What do you mean monitor it?
Well, somebody's gonna have to verify or confirm every time somebody requests.
Well, we'll have a,
But then
we'll
once
have
they
a,
request-
we'll have a
once
list.
Once they
that we're on
verify,
the approved
they have,
list.
they don't have to verify every
I
month.
agree, I understand.
Yeah,
One
let him
time
take
deal.
three.
We vet them
Now-
once and
now
then
gonna
they're
have
on
to
the
do a
list.
Freedom of Information Act every month to get them.
Yeah, but Dee Dee Wyatt does it, she just sends it all.
No,
There's a cost.
candidly, I
You
think
get
the
charged.
best way to do it, frankly, and not to put you on the spot, Carl, but to find a board member who would, have some way of verifying these people, because, it's hard for us to know, and you know your neighbors candidly better than we do, and not that you know every single person in the community, but at least, if they submit an email and a request and, they send you an address and tell you their name and maybe speak with them or something like that, I don't know how many requests we're gonna get, and I think we can talk about the logistics of how this might work. Again, I don't think we're gonna get 400 requests. But I could be wrong, and
But
it's
the two-
possible
but
that we
the
try
two or
this and it
three-
doesn't work and we end up, looking for an alternative, but,
The idea is to eliminate the Freedom of Information requests every month from the 2 or 3, which is a
Right.
cost to us and a cost to them.
right,
And like you
Right.
said, it won't be that many, and I can verify
They
it
get
myself.
charged though.
yeah, you can verify the 3, 4, 5 requests that we get.
Right.
And we can move on down the road and we'll spend $12 and then, I think I assume everybody would be comfortable with then removing everything from YouTube and all that stuff. Is that fair?
Yeah, let's table that one till we get more information.
Yeah, of
Okay.
course. I will
Work.
figure that out.
Okay, so,
Okay.
Oh.
I just wanted to know, don't you have a list that you send out for emergency purposes? That you send out alerts, emergency
we
alerts?
have, if you
to-
signed up for it,
To
That's a
all of
text.
us?
That's
if
a
you
Right.
signed out, it's a
Can't,
text.
can't we go off of that?
We don't have that list, the company has, well, I guess we have access to the list, but can't we go off of that for what?
For the videos, for verification?
I don't know if we,
It's only-
we should think about that, because that's all of our customers. I mean, that could be rental companies, that could be.
Exactly. People that used to
you know,
live here that don't live here
like-
anymore.
You'd be shocked at what some of that information looks like sometimes. I mean, a lot of residents and a lot of neighbors but also some, payment processing companies in Minnesota, I'm sure, so.
And I'm looking at it and following the way that Google does this for Google Business, because everybody would love to have a Google Business account on the website. They send a simple postcard with a code on it. You have to respond because it went to that address. So we know what address it went to. The people at that address have to respond back after they made the request. I'll write it all up and present it next month.
Okay, so did you hear back from Taylor as to the meeting dates?
He's good.
Joyful?
Yep, he's good.
He's good?
Yes.
Okay,
For the
Yep.
third.
alright, so the next meeting, we're going into executive session. I'm assuming, right?
Before,
Or-
yeah, but before we do that, Julie, we need to call a public hearing on the rules violation,
Oh,
so we
that's
can
right.
discuss that in executive session as well.
Okay. Okay,
Alright, so the next meeting will be, September 15th, then we
Okay.
will meet October 20th, November 17th, and December 15th.
got it.
And that is the third Monday of the month. And I think it would be a good idea to add a note to the website that we are gonna meet on the third Monday
Yeah.
through 1/1/26.
Why don't we just change it to the third Monday of the month, total, period?
Well, we can talk about that, but, I told somebody today it was the second Monday next month.
That would save the problem with Christmas and Thanksgiving.
There you go. Got Thanksgiving, you got
It-
Christmas.
Well, Thanksgiving, but not necessarily Christmas at some point.
This
It changes.
meeting this meeting schedule is a problem every single year for tax rate, Thanksgiving, and Christmas.
Yeah.
So,
And we also meet on the same night, same Thursday of every month that the San Jacinto River Authority meets. And if anyone wants to attend both, they cannot.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
we need to make a motion to accept the operator's report.
Oh, okay. Do I have a motion to accept the operator's report?
I'll make a motion, we accept the operator's report.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, alright, then we're gonna
Left you
call,
hanging out.
That's all right, go,
I just so we left him hanging out.
Sorry, forgot.
No worries.
Then we're gonna call a notice of a public hearing for a violation that we're gonna talk about in executive session. Is that right?
Yes, yes, ma'am, so we'll show that at 8 o'clock, we're entering a public hearing, so board, I'm sure most of you, if not everybody, knows about this. But we've had a new incident involving Charleston Park, and it took place on August 1st. We had, an individual who was driving a silver Lexus quite erratically. I'll spare some of the adjectives, but going throughout the neighborhood, drove through the park, rutted up the park, went through some of the neighborhood, ran over multiple mailboxes, endangered, health and safety and welfare of people throughout the district. It's really quite ridiculous. We have several witnesses. Some of them have provided statements in the form of text and emails through your board president. And so we have no choice but to address this as a violation. It was a very serious matter. We don't know if drugs or alcohol involved. The driving was very dangerous and erratic, totally without reason. And again, they're driving through people's yards, over their mailboxes, destroying brick mailboxes, driving throughout the park. We have people that go through the park. It's very unsafe. So this is a very, very serious matter. The person that we believe with good evidence, we have license plate, we have witness descriptions, pictures of the car, is a man named Jonathan Morgan. And he lives in Mosswood at 594 Sycamore Drive. So again, 594 Sycamore Drive in Mosswood. And so he has been officially noticed of tonight's violation hearing. He's been noticed 3 ways: through certified mail, regular mail, and through my personal phone call to him. We've not received a response. And so what I would suggest we do is we take this matter up and discuss it in executive session, and then the board, if there's any action you'd like to take, come back into open session and take that action.
Can I say something? I live in Mosswood. Can I say something? He's not there. He skipped. Last we knew up in Mosswood, he's with his mother. Where his mother lives, I do not know. But last us Mosswood people knew, because he did a lot of damage up by us. And you know that with the brick mailbox. But he used to drive the tow trucks. The big red tow truck and the white tow truck that you saw in the neighborhood, those were his. Okay, he lost those. How?
The what?
The big red tow truck that used to be up in Mosswood. Oh, well, anyway, he used to be the tow truck driver up there. But he's not up there anymore. He skipped. I don't know where he is. He's not at that house. So last word was he was staying at his mom's, but don't know where mommy is. So that's just a heads up on that one. I know he's not at 594 Sycamore.
You know what? We forgot to discuss park matters. I don't know how I skipped that. Can we go back into open session and discuss that, and then
We never left.
go back into executive after that?
We haven't gone into executive yet.
Sure,
Well,
you
I
can
know, but,
handle your meeting however you'd like to.
Can we do it in an order, different order? I don't know why I had that marked off.
Well, we can suspend the violation hearings. We're about to go into open session, into executive session. And before we do that, you can take up park matters. That'd be totally fine.
Okay, so, we're gonna take up park matters, so, forgot,
Okay.
so. Okay, so, I have a request, I guess, that I want the board to entertain, and then I think Tim and Mark have something they wanna talk about, I think, I don't know.
Briefly,
Briefly, okay.
just to update.
We have a lot of trees that are dying daily, and when we have to wait a month to get approval to do something, then wait another 2 or 3 weeks for the guy to get out here and cut them down, can we just do a blanket approval of, let's say, 15,000 to 20,000 to take down trees as they die, instead of coming, and then once we get down the big bunch that's out there now, go to like a $5,000 a month or $3,000 a month, so we don't have to wait for this to spread to other trees?
That's absolutely fine, but I think we need to get rid of any tree that's that particular bay laurel that is showing
Right.
any indication,
Right.
because that's gonna help prevent the threat going forward, so.
Correct.
I think we need a large expense to get that going as
Yeah.
soon as possible.
Well, the
stump.
stumps to get rid of it, yeah.
Gonna have to get a total removal of any remnants of that tree.
Huh?
Weren't we getting bids on that?
Well,
We haven't marked the trees
We
because
haven't.
it's been so hot.
we gotta mark the trees, and it's a matter of somebody getting out there with a can of paint and
So
marking.
really, we're only talking about approving that amount one time.
Correct. And then going with the
That
standard
sounds
3
like
or
an
5,000.
excessive amount just to leave out there.
No, then do a 3 to 5,000 a month after that one, because they're dying by the day. As you drive out, you can see
I think
them.
we need to get them cleaned up, but I don't want a $20,000 thing that could be reused.
No, that's not what it's not what I meant, if that's what I said. A one-time up to 20,000, and then 3,000 or 5,000, whatever y'all think, going every month, so we don't have to wait, come back 4 weeks, and then by that time, you know,
Another 20
double,
trees.
you know,
Yeah, I
double
don't
the
have a
trees
problem
have
with
died.
that. Let's get our bids and get going.
Okay,
Alright.
I agree
Well,
with
you're
it.
gonna be laid up.
I know.
Okay. So, somebody wanna
We have-
step
we
in?
have- We have one bid, right?
We have one.
Well,
But the
Yeah,
those,
we-
some of those trees aren't even there anymore.
yeah, so we officially don't really
Have a good bid.
We don't have
Some
we don't
of
have
those
a
trees were
project in
taken out
place
last
yet.
time. The last big one we did.
When you go to.
I'm talking about the guy that-
Yeah, some of those, some of
I'm not
those
gonna
were
go.
taken
It's
out
gonna be her, baby.
Huh?
already.
I'm not gonna go, it's gonna be her.
Oh, okay, well, you need some help, Molly.
Okay.
We can get, yeah, and I think you need to mark the ones with paint or something that you're
That's,
taking.
I'm gonna
Absolutely.
get some neon
Neon
paint,
green paint.
purple, pink, whatever, not pink. Everybody has pink. Purple, green, something. And we'll mark them so that we can count how many there are. So,
If you're gonna
Well-
get two bids, you might make, you could use two different colors, one for one contractor, one for the other, just to make sure they all
no,
on
we're
the
just
same.
gonna
No,
just
that way,
mark them.
that way any contractor that comes out here is
Knows
the
which
same
ones,
trees.
yeah,
That's what I meant.
yeah,
Make
so,
sure they're on the same line.
okay.
I'll make
So-
a motion that we,
Who we gonna give authority to? Who wants authority? Well, I guess if Tom and I are gonna go around, it should be one of us, I guess.
yeah,
That what?
for a while.
We're gonna go around and mark them, I guess, and,
That's fine.
Well, I'll make a motion that we have an open purchase order for, up to $20,000 for removal and disposal of, dead and diseased trees. That's one
One
motion,
yeah, just one time,
Including
20,000.
one time, up to 20,000. That's one motion.
Only do one motion at a time.
Okay, alright. Do we have a second?
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Second motion is that whoever's in charge of the tree department has freedom to authorize up to $3,000 a month for removal and disposal of, dead and diseased trees without needing to come back to the board for a vote.
do I have a second?
I'll second that as well.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay,
Okay.
alright, now. Y'all have anything?
Executive session.
No, they got,
Oh,
you got an update?
Very,
No?
very little. We've met, we've kind of divvied out the different assignments. We've agreed to mirror what the community's doing with 10 trees a year. And so we'll kind of ride their coattails with pricing, but we're waiting on that, right? We don't have that yet.
Correct.
And so we'll go with trees that grow fast and hopefully be hardy and drought resistant and so forth. We may experiment with one or two others. But the majority of them would be, what did we say, Tim? I got it here.
Red oak.
Yeah, well, I don't know if it's right to call it red oak, but
Texas red oak.
yeah, actually red oak was further down, but nut-all oak,
All oak. Okay.
nut-all oak.
And, Mark has, assignment is to put together the packet that we're gonna have. We're gonna have a nice packet to show all the board members next month.
Yeah.
And Mark's gonna put that together, so.
So we're gonna do 10 a year and the CIA's gonna do 10 a year?
Yes.
Okay.
We'll just partner with them, you know, as far as purchasing, it gives us better purchasing power. And, then we'll have to decide, maybe we could even go with the same company that would make, you know, cut, you know,
Come
make
and deal and
come
install
and
and plant
install
one.
and.
Yeah, the plant one.
Mhm.
But part of that is also getting, and I've asked Taylor this, I need a map of the, sprinkler system,
Yeah.
so that we know whatever we plant is gonna get
Right.
watered.
And that's
So
also
waiting on
something
a
that
response
they-
from him.
But we might have to be open to the fact of having to do temporary spot watering until they get established, because as those irrigation things just span
Right.
around, there's not really water in
Yeah.
one spot very much in
Yeah.
reality.
I talked to Taylor about there's two on section 6 and 7, we had sprinkler heads that not operating correctly.
Okay.
Well, there's some that are going off during the day too,
Yeah.
so.
Six has got some, and I think I told someone about,
What?
I was out there, I called up the office one of them on six was
Yeah,
a
6 is
geyser or
Yeah,
whatever.
shoot straight up.
Yeah,
Then
right
on
about in the middle of the fair,
Then
I
on
mean,
7, there's one that was sprayed to the sides, but it wasn't moving, it was just straight across.
Okay.
And we're not considering pine trees at all?
No.
No.
I think that's.
magnolias and oaks.
But magnolias are dying.
They're the fastest growing.
No,
We've
no,
got
to
two of
plant,
them out here already.
to replace the dead
It
trees.
fits into the
More trees,
Yeah, but those,
They,
they break, they fall over.
they're weak.
Pine bark
Oak trees
beetles.
break branches.
But you're gonna have
Everybody
the
has
same
them.
thing, you're gonna have the pine bark beetles.
And not much for shade though,
Yeah.
What kind of tree?
pine trees.
Pine.
I want pine.
Yeah, we've
They're a
lost a
mess.
lot with hurricanes.
Yeah, lost a lot of good trees.
And then as you say, the pine beetles,
Yeah,
they're
that
still
would just be
around.
doing this, yeah. Well, there was a bunch out here, so.
I'm trying to
There's
get my
one,
chainsaw
two
to
doors
work.
down from me, I walked by there and I could hear them.
Okay, we ready to go into executive session?
Okay,
Oh,
But we'll
okay.
present it for approval.
You good on
Any
the
other-
dates
any
of the
other-
next
Share,
meeting?
share what you think.
I've got them all on my calendar.
Any other park issues you
Thanks
wanna
for
discuss?
letting us know when it is. Is that gonna be posted
Yeah.
somewhere that everybody knows?
Put it
Be on the website.
Can you post on the website to check the website, cause you're changing the, not just
We
posting
won't
the
be
dates,
changing
but.
it because we had to coordinate it through so many people, so, anyway. Okay, we're going into executive session.
Okay.
All right, we're back into open session at 8:30 PM on Monday, August 11th. Does anybody have a motion they wanna make?
I make a motion that, we assess penalty or fine for Jonathan Morgan, who resides at 594 Sycamore Drive, Mosswood, who, damaged our park on August 1st, 2025. And this motion would, be carried payable by our next meeting, which is scheduled for September 15th.
And how much?
I said that at the very beginning, $3,000.
Okay. All right, do I have a second?
A second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Okay. All right,
I think we're done.
yep, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I make that motion, that's adjourned.
Do I have a second?
Did we discuss
Oh.
14,
What's 14?
the litigation, did he
Oh, we don't
officially,
have
did he officially
Yeah,
announce
we're
that?
done, yeah,
Okay.
okay. Did we get a second?
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
all in favor? Okay,
Next meeting is